cold start asterisk, the room was quiet. Too quiet. Only the sound of his own breathing filled the dark space. Captain Rhys Hale opened his eyes. The ship's cabin was dim, the air still. The hum of the life support system was steady, like a slow heartbeat. He lay still, not moving, just listening. Something felt. Wrong. It came again. A sound. A slow, steady breathing. Not his. Rhys's pulse kicked faster. He turned his head, just enough to see the far corner of the room. The emergency light flickered once, washing the metal walls in a dull red glow. That was when he saw her. She was sitting in the corner, knees pulled to her chest, arms wrapped around them. Her hair was dark, messy, and hung down over part of her face. She didn't blink. She didn't move. She just watched him. Rhys didn't speak. He didn't dare. He'd seen her before. The first night she appeared, he thought it was a dream. He'd woken up, rolled over, and she was there, just a shadow, sitting quietly. He blinked, and she was gone. But the next night, she was back. And the night after that. And the night after that. He had never heard her come in. Never saw her leave. He locked his door every night, set the ship's sensors to scan for movement. But nothing ever triggered an alarm. Yet when he woke, she was there. Tonight, the air felt heavier, colder. His skin prickled with a quiet warning from somewhere, deep in his bones. And she whispered, soft, slow, right into the quiet, Rhys. His breath caught. He had never told her his name. The whisper seemed to echo in his mind, like it had bypassed his ears completely. He wanted to ask her how she knew, but his throat wouldn't work. The words stuck there, like his body knew better. Then to speak, she shifted, moving just enough that the light caught her eyes. They were human. Almost. Too still. Too clear. I can't sleep alone, she said. Her voice was flat, as if each word was chosen with care. Not anymore. Rhys pushed himself up, his back against the wall, the thin blanket sliding into his lap. Who are you? He asked. His voice sounded small in the narrow cabin. She didn't answer right away. She looked at him the way a navigator studies a star chart, careful, calculating. Then she tilted her head, the corner of her mouth twitching. Like she was about to smile, but didn't. You were there, she said. On Vesper Station. The words made his stomach knot. He didn't need her to explain. He knew exactly what she meant. 3 weeks ago. The Central Square. The soldiers. The girl. And the screaming. He swallowed hard. That was you, he said quietly. Her eyes didn't leave his. She didn't nod, didn't confirm. But he knew. You ran, he said. You gave me time to, she replied. That's why I'm here. The hum of the life support seemed louder now, filling the silence between them. Rhys rubbed his face, trying to think. If you wanted to thank me, this isn't the way. You can't just... Her voice cut through his words like a blade. They're still looking for me, for us. Rhys froze. Us? She lowered her knees, leaning forward slightly. You spoke. You distracted them. You saw what they are under their skin. He thought back. The soldiers on Vesper had looked human enough from a distance. But when they grabbed her, their faces had changed, only for a moment. Like something else was inside them, pressing against the surface. They won't let you leave now, she said. Not without me. Rhys laughed, but it was humorless. You break into my cabin every night to tell me bedtime stories? Because that's not working. Her expression didn't change. She said, You will not survive without me. And I cannot survive without you. The way she said it, it didn't sound like a threat. It sounded like a fact. Rhys felt something cold crawl up his spine. He didn't want to believe her. But deep down, part of him did. Outside the cabin, the ship's hull groaned as it drifted through empty space. Somewhere far away, a meteor alarm pinged once, then went silent. In the corner, she never looked away from him. "You can try to lock the door," she said softly. "You can try to leave the lights on. You can even try not to sleep at all. But I will still be here when you wake." Rhys opened his mouth to tell her to leave, but his voice was gone again. The air felt thick, like the ship had dipped into a gravity well. She tilted her head, her eyes still fixed on him. "You saved me once," she whispered. "Now I'm saving you." The emergency light flickered again, and she was gone, but the corner where she had sat felt occupied. Rhys lay back slowly, staring at the ceiling. Sleep was the last thing on his mind. But he knew, without a doubt, that when he closed his eyes again, she would be there. The incident on Vesper Station never slept. It floated in the dark like a steel spider, its docking arms stretching toward passing ships. Every deck was a live market selling alien tech, smugglers moving stolen cargo, miners drinking away their pay. Captain Rhys Hale had been there 100 times. But that day, it felt different. The air was heavier, as if the station itself was holding its breath. He was heading toward Dock 6 when the crowd stopped moving. Conversations died mid-sentence. Heads turned toward the central square. 4 soldiers were marching through. Black armor, cold eyes, and between them, a girl. She wasn't fighting. She wasn't crying. She just walked with her head down, her hands bound. Her hair was a tangled mess, and her bare feet left small smears of blood on the deck. The soldiers dragged her to the center. One of them, taller than the rest, pulled out a long silver rod. He tapped it once against the ground. The sound was sharp like metal on bone. Then he spoke, his voice deep and without any accent Rhys knew. "She is a spy. The punishment is quartering." A ripple of shock went through the crowd. Rhys froze. That punishment hadn't been used in centuries. It was outlawed by every civilized world. The soldier pressed the silver rod against the deck, and the floor plates split apart like a blooming flower. 4 mechanical arms rose from the opening, each ending in a clamp. They meant it. They were going to tear her apart. Rhys looked around. Dozens of people stood there. No one moved. No one spoke. It was as if fear had glued them to the floor. He should have walked away. He should have minded his own business. But then she lifted her head. Her eyes met his. And for one heartbeat, he swore the noise at the station vanished. Those eyes were wrong, not alien, not machine. Human, but holding something vast, something old, something that did not belong in this time. The soldier raised his arm. The mechanical claws twitched, ready to strike. Rhys didn't remember deciding. His mouth just opened, and his voice cut through the silence. "Hey!" Every head turned. The soldiers looked at him, their expressions unreadable. Rhys stepped forward. "You've got the wrong person," he said, trying to sound braver than he felt. "She's not a spy. She's—" The tall soldier moved. For just a split second, the skin around his jaw shimmered like heat over sand, and underneath, something else looked back at Rhys. Not human. Not close. It was only a flash, and then the human face was back. But Rhys's stomach turned cold. Soldier tilted his head, studying him. Then, without looking away from Rhys, he gave a sharp gesture. The mechanical arms froze. The girl's eyes never left his face. Another soldier stepped toward Rhys, his boots heavy on the metal floor. "You have business here?" he asked. His voice was calm, too calm. Rhys knew he was in trouble. He also knew that if he backed down now, they'd finish what they started. "I have a ship," Rhys said. "If she's guilty, she can face trial. On neutral ground. Unless He let the word hang in the air. "You're afraid of a fair trial." The crowd murmured. It was a small sound, but it was enough. The soldiers didn't like attention. Not from civilians. The tall one gave another gesture. The clamps retracted into the floor with a hiss. "Take her," he said. His tone was cold, but there was something. Underneath something like calculation. Two soldiers shoved the girl toward Rhys. She stumbled once, but didn't fall. Rhys caught her by the arm. Her skin was ice cold. "Go," the tall soldier said, "before I change my mind." Rhys didn't need to be told twice. He pulled her into the nearest side corridor. The noise of the market rose again, covering their escape. When they were alone, she stopped. She looked up at him, and for the first time she spoke. "You saw them," she said. Rhys nodded slowly. "What were they?" Her answer was soft, but it cut straight through him. Hunters, wearing human skin. Rhys opened his mouth to ask more, but a shout echoed from behind them. The soldiers were coming. She grabbed his hand. "Run," she said, "and don't let go. Asterisk somethings." Wrong asterisk. The first night, Rhys thought it was a dream. He woke in his cabin on the Vigilant, the hum of the engine steady in the dark. He rolled over, and she was there, sitting in the chair by the wall. No movement, no sound. Watching him, he blinked hard, and the chair was empty. Just a dream, he told himself. The second night, she was closer, sitting on the edge of his bed, her eyes fixed on his face, unblinking. When he sat up, she was gone again. By the third night, Rhys had locked the cabin door, sealed the ventilation ducts, and activated the internal sensors. No one could get in without tripping an alarm. But when he opened his eyes, she was there, standing at the foot of his bed. And this time she spoke. "Don't scream." Asterisk. Her voice wasn't threatening. It was soft, almost pleading. But it froze him all the same. Rhys's mouth was dry. "How did you get in here?" She didn't answer. Instead, she tilted her head, studying him like a mechanic, examining a broken part. "You still think they let us go?" she said quietly. Rhys frowned. "They did." Asterisk. "No," she cut him off. "They followed us. They follow me everywhere. They can smell my trail in your dreams now." That made no sense. But then again, none of this did. Rhys swung his legs off the bed, grabbing his jacket. "You can't." The lights flickered. Just for a moment, the cabin plunged into total darkness. When they came back on, she was standing right in front of him. He stumbled back. "You!" Her hand shot out, gripping his wrist. Her skin was cold, almost metallic under the surface. "You have to stay near me when you sleep," she said. "It's the only way they can't find you." Rhys yanked his hand free. "You break into my room to tell me bedtime horror stories?" "I'm not—" "You saw them," she interrupted, "on Vesper. You saw what they are under their skin. You think you can fight that alone?" Rhys hesitated. The image from the square was burned into his mind, the way the soldier's face had shifted, the thing beneath pressing forward like it wanted out. "They aren't just soldiers," she said. "They're machines, but not the kind you build. They grow. They wear the skin of what they kill." Her eyes locked on his. "They wanted to quarter me because they thought I was whole. But I'm not." Rhys frowned. "Not whole." She glanced around the cabin, as if the walls might be listening. Then she leaned close, her breath cool against his ear. "Half of me is here. The other half, they still have." The words sank in like ice water. Before he could ask, the ship groaned a deep, metallic sound that wasn't in any maintenance. Manual. The air in the cabin shifted, colder now. Her expression hardened. "They found us." Rhys grabbed his sidearm from the wall rack. "How? We're in deep space." She stepped back into the corner, her voice suddenly urgent. "Because you were alone last night." They can reach through dreams. If they pull you in, they can take your skin. Rhys stared at her. You're saying, I'm saying you can sleep, she said, but not alone. Not ever again. Her tone left no room for argument. It wasn't a request. It was survival. Outside the cabin, something thumped against the hull. Once. Twice. Too slow. To be debris. Too heavy to be meteors. Rhys moved to the control panel, pulling up external scans. The system showed nothing. Just empty space. But the sound came again, closer this time, like something was crawling along the hull. He turned back to her. She was gone. Only the cold spot in the corner told him she had been there at all. The thumping stopped. The hum of the ship fell too. Loud now, as if trying to cover something else. Rhys sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the wall. He told himself he wouldn't sleep. Not tonight. Not with this in his head. But the hours passed. The hum of the engines grew softer. His eyelids grew heavier. And when sleep finally dragged him under, he dreamed of the Vesper Square and of 4 black-armored soldiers walking toward him through the crowd. Only this time, when they stopped, they didn't take the girl. They reached for him. The rules changed. Rhys woke with a start. The cabin lights were out. The ship was silent. Too silent. The Vigilant always had a heartbeat. The low hum of engines, the soft hiss of the recycler, the faint clicks of the hull shifting. Now there was nothing. He sat up fast, his hand going for the sidearm under his pillow. That's when he saw her. She was standing at the foot of his bed, not sitting in the corner, not perched on the edge, standing. And for the first time she looked afraid. They're here, she whispered. Rhys's chest tightened. The soldiers? Her head tilted slightly, eyes locked on his. They are not soldiers. They're hunters. The skin is only a mask. The bodies are only tools. They do not think like you. They do not sleep like you. They only track. Rhys slid out of bed, keeping his voice low. Track what? Her gaze didn't waver. Me. And now you. The ship shuddered, faint but enough to make the deck under his bare feet tremble. The emergency lights kicked on, painting the cabin in a dim red glow. Rhys pulled up the ship's scan display on his wrist console. No ships on sensors, no movement outside. But the hull temperature was dropping fast. They're on the hull, she said quietly. He turned to her. You can't know that. She stepped closer, her voice cold and certain. I feel them. The part of me they took still feels them. Rhys stared at her, his mind trying to untangle the words. Part of you? She glanced toward the door as another shudder rolled through the ship. When they quartered me, they didn't mean to kill me. They meant to divide me, my mind, my body, my code. Rhys frowned. Code? She looked back at him. I'm not just human, Rhys. I'm built, grown with pieces of a machine older than your world's. They thought if they split me apart, they could control me. And her eyes darkened. Half of me got away. Half of me stayed in there. Hands. That half calls to them, guides them. They are always coming. The deck jolted again, harder this time. Somewhere deep in the ship, a metallic screech echoed like something dragging claws across steel. Rhys's pulse was hammering. If they want you, why don't I just hand you over and save my skin? Her lips curved into something almost like a smile. Almost. Because you saved me once. And because the moment they finish with me, they will want you. Humans are rare. To them, your kind fights back. They like that. The hull groaned. Rhys pulled up an external feed. The cameras showed only black space. Then, just for a second, static washed over the image. And in that static, shapes moved. 4 of them, crawling. They're masking themselves, Rhys said, his voice low. They don't need to be seen, she replied. They only need to touch the ship. And then what? She looked straight into his eyes. Then they find your dreams. Rhys let out a harsh laugh. You keep saying that like it makes sense. It will, she said, when you wake. Up and find your skin is wearing them. The lights flickered again. The temperature dropped another 3 degrees. The sound of claws on hull came closer. Rhys grabbed the tool case from under the bed, pulling out a pulse rifle. All right, tell me how to stop them. She didn't blink. You can't, not alone. They can move through the spaces between seconds. Between thoughts. The only way to keep them out is me. You keep saying that, Rhys growled. Because it's the truth, she said. Her voice had sharpened now, each word like glass. When you sleep, I keep you anchored here. Without me, they can pull you into the place they feed. And once you're there, you don't come back whole. The deck lurched violently, throwing Rhys against the wall. His wrist console blinked a warning. Hull breach in progress. Outer. Layer compromised. He looked at her. What do they want right now? She stepped closer until she was inches away. They want you to close your eyes. Even for a second. That's all they need. Her hand brushed his cheek. It was still cold, but somehow steady. You saved me in the square, she said softly. Now I'm saving you. But you have to trust me enough to sleep with me here. Rhys's instincts screamed at him not to. But outside, something slammed into the hull so hard the cabin lights went dead again. And in the dark, her voice was the only thing left. They can't take you if I'm already there. To chase the vigilant was dying. Warning sirens wailed in short, sharp bursts. The lights strobed red. The floor vibrated under Rhys's boots as the ship's engines strained. They're inside, she said. Rhys spun toward her. You said they couldn't get in without. They didn't come through the door, she cut in. They came. Through time. That made no sense, but the pounding in the bulkheads told him she wasn't lying. He pulled up a schematic on the wall display. Internal motion sensors lit up in flickering dots hallways that should have been empty or no. Swarming with movement. They're splitting up, he muttered. Cutting us off from the cockpit. They're not chasing us, she said, stepping closer. They're hurting us. The deck jolted hard, throwing Rhys against the console. Why? Her eyes locked on him. Because they know what you did on Vesper. You didn't just save me. You marked yourself. You're a variable they can't control. They want you contained. Before Rhys could answer, the lights ahead flickered. The corridor twisted, literally twisted like the metal. Was soft clay. A shape stepped through the distortion dot. It wore a man's face. The skin was pale and stretched too tight, the smile too wide. But underneath, the eyes shone like wet glass. Rhys raised his rifle and fired. The pulse bolt hit center mass and passed through, like the body was smoke. The thing smiled wider. Still awake, it said. The voice was wrong. Too deep and too smooth. Good. We prefer our prey conscious. She moved fast one step forward, her hand slicing through the air like she was tearing fabric. For a split second, Rhys saw a flash of something, a pattern, a grid of light where the wall had been. The creature hissed and stepped back into the distortion, vanishing. Rhys stared at her. What did you just do? I pulled the second apart from the first, she said. It can't follow without both. That's not an answer. It's the only one you have time for. Another impact rocked the ship. The motion dots on the schematic were converging again. She grabbed his arm. We can't go to the cockpit. They'll expect that. Where then? To the spine, she said. Where the ship's dreams are. Asterisk. Rhys blinked. Ships don't dream. They all do, she replied. It's how they navigate the dark. And if I hide us there, The hunters won't see us. Not for a while. They ran. The narrow corridors echoed with the sound of their boots, and something else. Footsteps. Dozens of them. Rhys glanced back. Shadows. Moved at the far end of the hall, stretching too far, bending wrong angles. One shadow crawled along the wall like a spider. Asterisk. The hatch to the spine was sealed. Rhys slammed his palm against the panel, but the lock didn't budge. They've taken the controls, he said. She stepped forward. Then I take them back. She pressed both hands to the panel. Thin lines of light crawled up her arms, moving under her skin like veins of fire. The lock clicked. The hatch slid open. Inside, the spine was nothing like the rest of the ship. It was a vertical shaft, lined with shimmering cables and faint, pulsing light like the Vigilant had a heartbeat after all. They can't see in here, she said, stepping inside. Not unless you invite them. Rhys followed, sealing the hatch behind them. What are they waiting for? She looked up, the glow from the spine lighting her face. They're not waiting. They're building the trap. Every second we stay, they close it tighter. Rhys's jaw tightened. Then, why hide here? Because while they hunt? She reached out, placing her palm against one of the glowing cables. I can hunt back. The lights in the shaft pulsed faster. Somewhere deep in the ship, the siren stopped. The silence was worse. Rhys felt the hair on his neck rise. What are you doing? Her voice was low, almost distant. Finding the other half of me. The lights dimmed. Then faintly, from somewhere in the dark, came a whisper. Not hers. Not human. It said his name. The truth. The whisper came again. Slow, wet, close. Rhys. Rhys turned toward the sound, pulse hammering. The spine's lights flickered, washing the chamber in sickly shadows. That's not them, he said. She didn't answer. She stood perfectly still, her hand pressed against the glowing cable, eyes unfocused. Her voice, when it came, was too calm. It's the other me. The whisper slid through the air, curling around them. This time it wasn't words, it was feelings. Hunger, ownership, a promise of pain. Rhys swallowed hard. Your other half? She blinked slowly, like waking from a long sleep. When they split me, they didn't just take my body. They took my map, the part that remembers where I came from, what I was built to do. The pulsing lights in the spine began to change rhythm, matching her voice. Rhys didn't like it. And what was that? Her eyes met his. For a second, they weren't human at all. They were rings of light, churning slowly inward. I was built to end things, she said softly, not to fix them, not to heal, to end. Rhys stepped back. And what? She looked past him, toward the darkness above. Everything that grows wrong. Everything that eats without balance. The hunters are wrong, Rhys, but they learned from me. They became like me. The whisper came again, sharper now. It wasn't behind them anymore. It was inside the walls. The cables vibrated under Rhys's boots. She closed her eyes. That's my voice, if they win. The shaft shuddered, and the hatch they'd sealed groaned. From the other side came the slow scrape of claws on metal. Rhys gripped his rifle. So how do we stop them? Her expression was unreadable. You don't. Not without putting me back together. Both halves. That's insane, he said. The other half is with them. Her voice sharpened. And if I'm not whole, I can't do what I was built for. I can't end them. And they will keep hunting me, you. Every human who can still think for themselves, until there's nothing left but skin they wear. Rhys shook his head. So your plan is to become what they made you? Her lips curved slightly. No, my plan is to remember what I was before they touched me. The spine's lights dimmed again. From above, a shadow spilled down the cables like oil. It had no shape, no face, just an outline of movement that bent the light wrong. Rhys aimed his rifle. Is that one of them? She didn't look. No. That's the part of me they keep caged. It found us through the ship's dream. The shadow slowed, pulsing faintly like it was breathing. Then it spoke not in a voice, but directly inside Rhys's mind. Give her back. The words felt like knives behind his eyes. He gritted his teeth. Not happening. The shadow laughed without sound. She is not yours. She is mine. She remembers because I let her. I can take it back. The girl finally looked up at it. Her voice was colder than he'd ever heard. You can't take what I give away. The shadow's edges rippled. Then I will take him instead. It lunged. Rhys fired, the pulse bolts slicing through the dark. The shadow twisted, absorbing the shot like smoke. Then it hit him, not with weight, but with memory. He saw flashes, worlds burning, fleets shattering, shapes like hers tearing holes in the sky. And always something wearing human faces, watching from the edges. He staggered, gasping. What? What the hell are you? She stepped between him. And the shadow, her voice steady. The thing you saved in the square. The shadow hissed, recoiling. The cables around them pulsed faster, almost frantic. She glanced at Rhys. You have to choose. Stay with me, and we find the other half. Or leave me here, and you wake up wearing someone else's skin. The hatch above them buckled under a heavy impact. The hunters were almost through. Rhys's heart pounded. His mouth was dry. And if I choose wrong? Her eyes glowed faintly in the red light. Then your story ends here. The shadow pressed closer, whispering his name again. The hatch screamed under the strain. And in that breath before the breach, Rhys realized there wasn't a safe choice, only one that kept the fight going. The decision. The hatch above them exploded inward. Metal shards rained into the spine. The hunters dropped through the smoke, their movements smooth and wrong, like marionettes pulled by invisible strings. 4 of them. The same 4 from Vesper Station. Rhys aimed his rifle. The girl didn't move. She just watched them with that unblinking, too-still stare. The tallest hunter stepped forward. Its human masks smiled. You carried her far, human, it said. That was kind. We will take her now. Rhys tightened his grip. Over my dead body. The hunter's smile widened. That is the idea. The shadow, her other half, uncoiled from the cables above, sliding down behind the hunters. It was bigger now, sharper, its edges flickering with shapes that hurt the eyes. She finally spoke. Rhys, step back. He glanced at her. Why? Her voice was calm. Because when I end this, you might not survive standing close. The tallest hunter laughed. You can't end anything. You are half. You are broken. She tilted her head. So are you. You wear the skin of prey. That makes you weaker than you think. Before the hunter could reply, she moved. It wasn't fast. It was instant. 1 second she was standing by Rhys. The next she was between the hunters and the shadow. Her hands sank into the air like it was liquid, pulling something out. Long, jagged, and humming with light. A weapon, not a sword. Not a tool. Something older. Something meant to cut more than matter. The hunters hesitated. Even the tallest one stepped back a fraction. Rhys felt the air tighten, like the whole spine was holding its breath. The shadow whispered in his head again. Help me, and I will save you from her. Rhys clenched his teeth. Save me from what? From what she becomes when she's whole. The girl glanced over her shoulder at him, as if she'd heard. Her eyes glowed, brighter now, and for the first time, he saw strain in her face. They're lying. They can't save you. But I can't protect you if you choose them. The hunters moved first. Two lunged low, too high, their limbs twisting at angles no human could match. She cut the air, not their bodies, and the space around them folded, swallowing them whole. No sound. No struggle. They were simply gone. The tallest one roared, charging forward. The shadow surged with it, wrapping around its form like smoke. Rhys realized too late that they were merging hunter and other half into something bigger, something hungrier. The lights of the spine flared white. The deck shook so hard, Rhys had to grab a cable to stay upright. She turned to him, her weapon humming in her hands. This is it, Rhys. I can kill it. But if I do, I'll take what's mine from it, all of it, and I won't be just me anymore. Rhys's heart was pounding so hard it hurt. What happens if you're whole? Her expression didn't change. Then I'm what I was built to be. And you won't be able to sleep again. The merged creature screamed, a sound like tearing metal and breaking bone. The cables overhead began to snap, one by one. She stepped closer to Rhys, her voice steady. Despite the chaos, you have to choose. I can end them now, but when it's done, you'll have to live with me. The shadow's voice came deep and cold. Or choose me, and she disappears forever. I will leave you alive, untouched. Rhys looked between them. The girl with her impossible weapon. The merged monster, the shadow that claimed it could spare him. His hands tightened on the rifle, but he knew this wasn't a choice bullets could solve. The deck split under the monster's weight. Sparks rained from the cables. She raised the weapon, waiting. The shadow reached toward him like an open hand. And, in that last heartbeat before the decision, Rhys realized something terrifying. Either choice might save his life, but neither would let him keep it.